Imagine a fierce storm raging overhead, where the freezing wind seems to freeze even your thoughts, and this story begins. A young woman walks barefoot across a ground cracked by ice, desperately searching for something to eat. Her numb fingers barely manage to gather a few wild berries that do nothing to ease the emptiness in her stomach. Weak and powerless, she collapses unconscious onto the white snow, surrendering herself to certain death. However, the nearby crack of a deer and a flicker of fire in the distance force her to get back on her feet. As she approaches the campfire, she finds a lonely old man cooking a hare. The young woman, trying to hide her feminine features, begs him for a bite and confesses that the legends of Robin Hood are the only thing giving her the strength to keep living. The old man's response is a bucket of cold water. Robin Hood was no hero, but a bloodthirsty bandit whose exploits were nothing more than lies that spread terror. After uttering these harsh words, the man leaves the camp, abandoning the young woman to her fate in the freezing night. Shortly afterward, consumed by resentment and after regaining some energy from the leftover meat, the young woman follows the old man's trail through the darkness. Believing that he is sleeping deeply, she lunges at him with a dagger in her hand. Unexpectedly, the old man reacts with inhuman speed, disarming her instantly and piercing her neck. As she slowly bleeds to death in the snow, he coldly tells her that she should have bathed better, since he could smell her from the moment the wind changed direction. To spare her a painful agony, he drives the blade directly into her skull. The following morning, the old man, who is none other than Robin Hood himself, drags the body away to bury it beneath heavy rocks alongside dozens of other graves, irrefutable proof that the past always returns to collect its blood debts. As he bathes in the river, a voiceover reminds us that the land never forgets that, of all men, none was as bloodthirsty as he and his loyal companion, Little John. Days pass in tense silence until, out of nowhere, Little John emerges from the undergrowth, the last of his former followers. His face is shattered by tragedy. He reveals to Robin that after taking on a false identity by murdering an ordinary farmer in order to start a family, his secret was discovered and his wife was kidnapped. Desperate and with tears in his eyes, he begs his former master to help him get her back, promising him a formidable battle. Robin, who only longs for a definitive end to his own suffering, agrees in the hope of finding death. Along the way, armed with cold determination, they ambush some men on an old bridge to steal a simple loaf of bread. As they eat, John describes his beloved Margarita as a pious woman with hair as intensely red as a summer sunset, dreaming of escaping together beyond the mountains where their dark stories have not yet reached. Suddenly, dense fog covers the land when they arrive at the enemy's cabin. Naked and covered in wet mud to disguise their body odor, they begin their meticulous assault. One of Robin's arrows finds its target in the eye of a guard dog, while Little John advances, slitting the throats of the sentries. Unfortunately, a noise gives away their presence and alerts the last kidnapper inside the house. Finding himself cornered, the man brutally stabs Margarita in the stomach. From the window, Robin spots a small boy running quickly toward the village to raise the alarm. Without a gram of mercy, the outlaw draws his bow and shoots an arrow through the boy's skull in the middle of the road. When they enter, the scene is heartbreaking. Little John savagely beats the killer until he is left without a face, but he can do nothing for his wife, who dies on the frozen floor. In a dark corner, her young stepdaughter Margaret silently witnesses the horror, an experience that will mark her forever. The following morning, the consequences fall like an avalanche. The boy wounded by Robin miraculously manages to stagger into the village before dying, unleashing the fury of the villagers. Led by a respected old man known as the Wise One, the armed men put on their heavy armor and march, thirsting for justice. Meanwhile, inside the cabin, John lovingly cleans the body of his beloved in an agonizing ceremonial ritual filled with pain. That same night, the enraged mob arrives, burning everything in its path. Robin tries to repel the attack amid the suffocating smoke and kills an attacker by forcing a burning torch down his throat. However, when he faces the Wise One directly, he is completely overpowered by the brute force of his warhammer, which shatters his leg and breaks his ribs. Just when everything seemed lost, Little John emerges from the shadows and splits the enemy leader's skull with an axe, rescuing Robin and little Margaret in an old cart. The journey of escape is long and torturous, crossing mountains and oceans until they reach a remote abbey. Little John leaves Robin dying at the doors of the place, knowing that his own fate is sealed. When Robin awakens in a warm bed, he is welcomed by Bridget, a kind woman who has healed his deep wounds with burning fire. The place is a peaceful sanctuary without walls, where families live quietly and children run happily. Over time, supported by a crutch, Robin tries to earn a living by making his own arrows and hunting rabbits. He is surprised when the protector of the island, a leper with his face covered, brings little Margaret with him, and she runs to embrace him through tears, revealing that her father has died. However, the peace of the abbey is haunted by the shadows of the past. The leper returns with a wounded young man from the attacked village who introduces himself as Arthur, although Robin discovers that his real name is Gogwin and that he is seeking revenge. In a moving confrontation on the coast, Robin reveals who he is and spares his life, ordering him to return to his mother and sisters before night falls, thus preventing further bloodshed. Shortly afterward, the elderly leper dies in his bed, but not before revealing to Robin that he always knew his identity because Robin had saved his life in the past, begging him to protect the abbey. Suddenly, the darkest twist of the story comes to light. That same night, after losing consciousness because of the treatments, Robin awakens weakened and surrounded by a circle of fire. Standing before him, Bridget reveals her true identity. She is the widow of the man Robin burned alive in the past. With tears of pure pain, the woman describes the endless torture of searching through the smoking ashes for the remains of her family. Robin, with an arrow hidden beneath the sheet, ready to kill her, decides to release the weapon and close his eyes, surrendering himself completely to death. Surprisingly, cruelty does not live in Bridget's heart, and she retreats to a cave to cry bitterly, unable to carry out her revenge because she understands that her work with the children is not yet finished. At dawn, Robin understands that his body and soul are far too exhausted. Looking Bridget in the eyes, he begs her to help him find eternal rest. With a small dagger, the woman gently opens a vein, allowing his life to peacefully fade away. In his final moments of breath, Robin takes Margaret's hand and reveals the greatest secret of all. Her father was the legendary Little John, a complex man who did both good and evil, warning her to keep the secret to protect her life. The movie ends at the exact moment Robin gives the girl instructions on how to string her bow. The arrow flies across the vast horizon as the legendary outlaw breathes his final breath, and the screen fades completely to black, allowing him to leave this world. If you enjoyed this tragic and moving story about the true ending of a legend, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming recaps. Your support helps us continue bringing you the best content.